A human newborn is basically a very expensive alarm system wrapped in a blanket. It cannot walk. It cannot hold up its own head for long. It cannot find food unless food is placed directly into its mouth by a larger mammal who has not slept properly in weeks. It cannot communicate with words, open a jar, avoid a staircase, or understand that 3 a.m. is not traditionally considered a social hour. And yet, when this creature produces one burp, several adults may gather around and applaud like it has solved agriculture. This is strange because in much of the animal world, babies arrive with a bit more dignity. A foal can stand and stumble around soon after birth. Many baby reptiles hatch and immediately begin the ancient reptile career path of being tiny, independent, and mildly suspicious. Even some primate infants can cling tightly to their mothers in a way human babies absolutely cannot. So why are human babies so helpless? Why would evolution, a process famous for being extremely rude to bad ideas, produce an infant that needs constant carrying, feeding, cleaning, warming, protecting, soothing, and occasional rescue from its own fingers? The answer is not that human babies are poorly designed. It is that they are designed for a very weird strategy. Humans do not arrive as finished little survival machines. We arrive as unfinished social projects. A human baby is born early in one sense, but not accidentally early. It is born at a point where it can survive only inside a dense web of care. Parents, grandparents, siblings, cousins, neighbors, and the occasional exhausted friend holding a bottle at a baby shower all become part of the survival system. The helplessness is not separate from the strategy. It is the strategy. To understand why, start with the most obvious problem: heads. Humans have unusually large brains for our body size. Adult humans have brains that are costly, hungry, and frankly, a little dramatic. They help us make tools, remember social debts, invent soup, gossip in complex ways, and wonder if we sounded weird in a conversation 7 years ago. But big brains create a very practical engineering issue. Babies have to be born. Human childbirth is shaped by several pressures at once. Our ancestors walked upright, which changed the pelvis. At the same time, the human brain became large. A baby with an even bigger head would be harder and more dangerous to deliver. Researchers still debate exactly how much of birth timing is about the pelvis, how much is about the mother's energy limits, and how these factors interact. But the broad problem is clear enough. There is a trade-off between growing a big-brained baby inside the body and getting that baby out alive. So human babies are born with brains that are still very immature. A newborn human brain is only about a quarter of its adult size. Much of the growth, wiring, and refinement happens after birth, out in the noisy, bright, germ-covered world, while everyone nearby pretends this is normal. This gives human babies a distinct look: soft skull bones, giant eyes, wobbly neck, the general vibe of a potato that has urgent emotional needs. But this immaturity does something powerful. It allows the brain to keep developing while soaking up the specific world the baby is born into. A horse needs to walk soon because not walking is a poor choice when predators exist. And your mother is already standing in a field. A human baby, by contrast, is born into a world where survival depends less on immediate running and more on learning an absurdly complicated social environment. Who is safe? Which sounds matter? What foods count as food? What facial expressions mean? Which tools do what? How to get attention without being eaten. Later, how to speak, share, lie badly, apologize, pretend to enjoy a gift, and understand why everyone is suddenly quiet at the dinner table. Human life is not just physical survival, it is cultural survival. A baby born with everything pre-programmed would have a problem because human environments vary wildly. A child born in an Arctic hunting community, a tropical forest, a farming village, a medieval city, or a modern apartment full of charging cables needs to learn very different things. The body cannot encode all of that in advance. So evolution leaned into flexibility. Instead of giving us newborns that can run, it gave us newborns that can learn. If oddly human trade-offs like this are your kind of thing, this is a good place to stay with the channel. The cost of this flexibility is obvious to anyone who has ever tried to leave the house with a baby. You do not simply leave. You assemble a small, mobile civilization. Diapers, wipes, bottles, spare clothes, tiny socks that vanish into another dimension, and a bag large enough to suggest a weekend military campaign. Human infants require a huge amount of investment. Not just calories, but time, attention, patience, and repeated willingness to pick up the object they threw on the floor while making direct eye contact. This is where another part of the human strategy appears. We are not just a big-brained species, we are a cooperative species. Across human societies, childcare has often involved more than only the mother. Fathers may help, Grandparents may help, older siblings may help. Aunts, uncles, neighbors, and other group members may help. Anthropologists sometimes describe humans as cooperative breeders, meaning that raising young is often shared among multiple caregivers. That does not mean every society does it the same way, or that help is always fair, equal, or cheerful. Humans are still humans. But compared with many mammals, human child-rearing has often been unusually social. This matters because helpless babies are expensive. A mother caring entirely alone would face enormous demands, especially while also needing food, safety, and rest. Shared care makes long childhood possible. And long childhood is one of humanity's strangest superpowers. Most animals do not spend years being taught how to be their species. They develop, practice, and get on with it. Humans spend childhood absorbing a gigantic invisible operating system. Language, rules, skills, taboos, stories, manners, tool use, group identity. How close to stand to someone in a conversation. Which plants are edible. Which snakes are not a fun texture experience. How to read the room. Childhood is not just waiting to become useful. It is training for a species whose main survival tool is learned knowledge. This is why babies are not helpless in every way. They are bad at walking, yes. Terrible at taxes. But they are not passive blobs. Newborns prefer faces. They are tuned to voices. They can learn smells, rhythms, and patterns. They cry in ways that pull adults toward them with impressive efficiency. They grasp, root, suck, gaze, imitate in simple ways, and slowly begin the lifelong human project of figuring out what other people are doing. A baby cannot survive alone, but it is very good at recruiting care, and adults are very recruitable. Human babies come with a set of features that adults tend to find compelling. Large eyes, round faces, small noses, soft bodies, and helpless movements. These features do not work on everyone in the same way, and caregiving is shaped by culture, experience, stress, and circumstance. But in general, baby-like traits are powerful social signals. They say, please do not leave this organism in a bush. Cuteness is not just decoration. It is part of a care system. The baby has needs. The adults have emotional responses. The group has incentives to keep the next generation alive. Somewhere in that ancient triangle, the chubby cheek became a survival technology. This also explains why babies are loud. A quiet, helpless infant in an ancestral environment would have a serious customer service issue. Crying is not pleasant because it is not supposed to be pleasant. It is an emergency signal aimed directly at the adult nervous system. It cuts through sleep, conversation, and any unrealistic plan to relax. From the baby's perspective, this is reasonable. It cannot say, "Excuse me, my blood sugar is dropping and my thermal regulation is poor." It has one main button and it presses it. A lot. The remarkable thing is that adults respond. Not perfectly, not always calmly, but enough across generations for the strategy to work. Helplessness also changes the emotional shape of human families. Because babies need so much, caregivers become deeply invested. Feeding, holding, comforting, and protecting are not just chores. They build attachment. The baby learns who comes back. The caregiver learns the baby's signals. Over time, a relationship forms out of thousands of tiny exchanges. A diaper change is not usually described as an evolutionary bonding ritual, mostly because that would make it sound more majestic than it smells. But in a practical sense, care is relationship. The ordinary repetition is the point. This long dependence may also have helped make humans intensely social in adulthood. We begin life needing others for everything. Our nervous systems develop in conversation with other nervous systems. We learn safety from bodies, faces, voices, and touch. Before we are individuals with opinions about coffee, we are small mammals being regulated by larger mammals. That early dependency leaves traces. Adults still look for reassurance in faces. We still panic when excluded. We still form alliances, seek approval, copy the group, and feel better when someone reliable is nearby. The helpless baby does not vanish. It grows up, gets a password manager, and still wants someone to text back. The long childhood also lets humans pass on knowledge that no single individual could rediscover alone. Fire making, tool making, tracking animals, preparing dangerous foods safely, healing practices, boat building, farming, weaving, navigation, music, ritual, law, jokes that only make sense inside one family. Culture piles up because children have time to learn it. A species with helpless infants can become a species with libraries. That is the trade. We give up early independence for deep learning. We give up instant competence for adaptability. We arrive unable to do almost anything, and that gives us time to become almost anything. Of course, this does not make infancy easy. It is not a charming little theory at 4:17 in the morning when a baby is screaming because being alive is apparently very surprising. Evolution does not optimize for parental convenience. It optimizes for enough babies surviving long enough to become adults who can have more babies and complain about how tired they are. But it does make the helplessness look different. A human newborn is not a failed horse. It is not an unfinished product accidentally shipped without key features. It is the opening stage of a species that moved much of its development into relationships. The baby's weakness creates a demand for care. The care creates attachment. Attachment creates learning. Learning creates culture. Culture changes the world the next baby is born into. Then the next baby arrives, equally confused, equally outraged, and somehow ready to absorb all of it. So when you see a newborn being celebrated for burping, it is funny because the achievement is objectively modest. Air went in, air came out. Applause followed. But underneath that tiny domestic ceremony is a very old human arrangement. The baby cannot survive alone, so it pulls a circle of people around it. Those people feed it, carry it, teach it, soothe it, and slowly load a whole human world into a growing brain. Our babies are helpless because humans are not built to begin life as solitary experts. We are built to begin as questions. Small, loud, soft-headed questions. And the answer, for better and worse, is everybody else.